All right. Welcome back. Like, subscribe, comment, join the Discord in the description below. Follow us on Spotify in the description below. All the links are there. Don't be afraid to go down and look. We're going to go into a few things. We're going to preview Monday Night Football. We're going to give our opinions on where Bill Belichick could potentially land next and a few things that have gone on this weekend. But before we start, the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals, are 6-4, first in the NFC West. Losses to the Bills, Commanders, Packers, blowout losses. They lost convincingly to the Commanders and the Packers. Some highlights that I do want to mention is in the loss to the Lions, they allowed 0 second half points. And to the 49ers, when they won that game, they allowed 0 second half points. Something to point out. On Sunday, the Cardinals beat the New York Jets 31-6. In the Cardinals' last 3 home games, their defense has allowed 0 touchdowns. Yesterday, against the Jets, K1 had the same number of rushing touchdowns as incompletions. He went 21 for 23, 91.7 completion percentage, highest in the NFL this season. 260 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 passing, 2 rushing, 128.3 passer rating. Trey McBride is a legit star. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 touchdowns, most of all rookies this season. Defense is actually legit. Jonathan Gannon is cooking at a high level. Drew Petzing is getting the offense going. And I think that there's a real case to be made that, 1, this Cardinals team is a legitimate playoff team as of right now. 2, Kyler Murray is playing at, I said it before the season started, he's a top 10 quarterback when it's all right and it's cooking. I think as of right now, he's playing at a top 5 level, and his name should be starting to trickle into the MVP conversations. And for some reason, week in and week out, on all of the media, on The Ringer, ESPN, wherever you go and consume content, absolutely no one talks about this Arizona Cardinals team at all. 1, I want to hear what you have to say about the defense, because that was something that you had a major question about going into the season. And I need to hear what you think. Like I said, last 3 home games, allowing 0 touchdowns. Some of the highlights that I made about no points in the second half, some of the most high-powered offenses in the entire league. I want to hear about what you're thinking about the defense. Second, I want to hear what you think about how Kyler Murray is playing and this offense. And lastly, why are the Cardinals getting absolutely no love in the media this season?
All right, I'll start with the defense. I was wrong. They have looked very good and have been playing at a very high level here recently, and then even earlier in some of those games that you pointed out. I think the most important part that you've mentioned, and I think aside from you pointing it out, I think it deserves more of a more recognition, like throughout the media of football right now, is just how good in the second half this defense has been. I don't have any of the other stats pulled up, but another game where they didn't give up any points in the second half. They held the Jets to 2 field goals in this game.
Crazy.
And they've been playing some really, really solid football on the defensive end. I mean, and the offensive end too, but the defense has played absolutely out of their price range. And if you're a Cardinals fan, I think it's got to be extremely refreshing. I was wrong about it, so I'll admit that. I've got no problem admitting that. I was on board with the offense. I thought this offense would be very good, and it appears that is correct. Kyler Murray has been the picture of efficiency, I would say, at this point. Take away Jared Goff's game last night, I would say that those two were probably the 2 most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL at this point through, 10 games?
Weeks. Yeah, 10 weeks.
But after Jared Goff's absolute stink fest last night, I think it's probably Kyler Murray who's been playing at the most efficient rate. He hasn't had to really do a ton. Like, he hasn't had to go crazy, like I mentioned last week, go out there, throw for 300, 400 yards. They've been running at the ball at such an efficient clip. he was 95% completion percentage yesterday against the Jets. Like that's phenomenal, obviously. Marvin Harrison Jr. looked really good yesterday. Go
I
ahead.
will butt in real quick. I mean, he did throw for 260 yesterday against Miami. He threw for over 300 yards. If he had to do it this season, he's been able to do it. But I think what's special about the Cardinals team is the fact that not all of the weight's on his shoulders. You are like good example is the Bears game last week when the run game, they rush for over 200 yards rushing, and it wasn't a game for Kyler. They can do it in multiple ways, and I think that's something to highlight. But go ahead about
that was my overarching point of this Kyler Murray situation is he hasn't had to go out there yet and throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and run for 75. Mm-hmm. They've been just very solid on offense. Their defense is making it really easy for them by shutting down these teams. But on to Marvin Harrison, guy we obviously both loved. He's had his ups and downs throughout the season. But as far as like a game-to-game consistency point, he's had his ups and downs is what I'm referring to. But overall, I think you got to be pretty happy with where he's at this point in the season, leading rookies in touchdowns. I thought he looked really, really solid this on Sunday. So I think you got to be really happy about him. Trey McBride, who you mentioned, that was a guy that we both sort of thought was going to not take that step because I think he was already there, but still isn't really getting the credit he deserves as a tight end yet, which is probably falls into this entire Arizona Cardinals lack of like recognition. I think if people really took a step back and realized that the Cardinals have been doing this to some of these teams, that they'd be getting more recognition, more people would be talking about them. And then I think that would bring more light to Trey McBride because he's been a phenomenal tight end since he started playing midway through the season last year, something like that.
Midway.
He's probably been like the best tight end on like stats wise since he started, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I don't know that in front of me, but I agree with you.
He's definitely right up there if he's not the leader in tight end statistics. Now onto the final piece of this, the Cardinals not receiving their nationwide flowers, recognition, like nobody's talking about them. I honestly have no clue why. It just feels like they're just doing this quietly, staying under the radar, just, hey, 1 week at a time. We'll continue to lock these teams down. We don't care if nobody talks about us. They deserve credit. I mean, again, another week where they didn't give up any points in the second half, held the Jets 2 field goals, and then just have been really solid on offense. I don't know why nobody's talking about them. We've been talking about them week to week
since the beginning of before the season started.
Right. I'm correct. We've been giving them their credit. It feels like we're almost the only ones that are doing that. And maybe that's how they want it. Like, it doesn't seem like they care. Like, we don't ever hear anything about anybody on the Cardinals being like, nobody's talking about us, whatever. It's, hey, we're going to line up, we're going to play football, and then we're going to strap you down. And
it's just absolutely crazy to me that Kyler Murray is legitimately playing at an MVP level. And then on the other side of the football, Budda Baker is playing at a defensive player of the year caliber. That guy is playing with his hair lit on fire every single week. Yeah. He makes the biggest impact on a week-to-week basis on any defense in the entire NFL. So it's just like you have 2 guys who are legitimate stars. K1 was a number 1 overall pick. On the other side of things, you have Budda Baker, who people have loved in the NFL forever. I said it when the trade deadline was coming around. Every single year, Budda Baker's getting traded to the Eagles, and it's like he's not getting traded. He's loved. Like, the Cardinals love that dude, and
yeah,
I just think it's crazy that like you have 2 legitimate star power names, like, and they just don't get mentioned. So that's pretty crazy to me. And then I would just want to highlight this 4-game winning streak that they went on here real quick. They are at home against the LA Chargers. They win 17-15. They don't give up a touchdown. Get it done. Ugly win against the Chargers. Defensive team, low scoring game, still find a way to win. Then they go on the road to Miami for a 1:00 game, probably the biggest letdown spot to his first game back. They go down at the top of the fourth quarter. They are down. They come back. K1 throws for over 300 yards, plays a flawless game, come back, win 28-27 on a last-second field goal to the Miami Dolphins. Next, go home. Chicago Bears come out to Arizona. They absolutely run the ball down their throat. 200-plus rushing yards, 29-9. Honestly, killed the Chicago Bears this season. We touched on that last video, that the Chicago Bears haven't been the same since that Hail Mary, and then seems like the Cardinals put the nail in the coffin. Another way that they go and win this game, Kyler doesn't have to throw that much. Run the ball on the ground. Then the New York Jets come out to Arizona, and Kyler throws all over the yard, rushes for 2 touchdowns. They run the ball well, and their defense. When I was getting ready to go to bet on this Jets game, I ended up taking the Cardinals money line. I tweeted it out afterwards. I put like $56 on it or something like that. They were underdogs at home to the Jets. Made no sense. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, there is no way, nobody can check Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams on this defense. And neither those guys were legitimate no-shows on Sunday. So I just think it's something to highlight. I think Jonathan Gannon is a very, very good head coach. I think it starts there. And then on top of it, you see what having good veterans in a locker room for a football team, for example, Budda Baker, for example, James Conner, guys who lead from the front, work hard. Everybody loves them. You hear nothing but good things about those guys. And then Kyler has stepped up as a leader as well, blocked out all the noise. And you can see like what a team could possibly do. I said it before the season started. I didn't have the balls to sit here and say, there's always a team that goes worst to first. There's always a team that goes worst to first. And I was like, I want to say the Cardinals, but I don't think that they're there yet on defense. But their defense is playing so above expectation that I think that the Cardinals might be that team that goes worst to first this year. And they're trending that way.
Another thing that I think's worth mentioning is these last 2 games against the Bears and the Jets, the Cardinals have started out really fast. Against the Bears in the first half, they were already up 21-9. And then this week against the Jets in the first half, they were already up 24-6. So like that makes things so much easier to go into halftime and you're already up by like 2 scores and there's not nearly as much pressure leading into that second half. And when you have the run game that the Cardinals have had this season, you can. I don't think they necessarily take their foot off the gas, but it just still makes it easier in the second half of these games when you're already up 2 scores to come out and say, okay, we can just run the football. If we take care of the football, we play good defense, we're going to win this football game. And that's what we've seen the last 4 games out of this Cardinals team.
Yeah. In the last 2 games, I mean, Clayton Tune's been coming in. So like,
yeah.
It's just crazy.
Get Kyler a breath.
So I think it's something obviously to note. The Cardinals, obviously one of my favorite teams in the NFL. Kyler's my favorite player in the NFL. He's balling. And I just think Marvin's getting better every week. Trey Benson had 67 yards rushing this week. He looks better every single week. It's just each week this team's getting better and better. And then Jonathan Gannon, I saw a quote from him today. The media asked him like about the bye week, and he was just like, yeah, like I expect my guys to stay like locked in, and like the season's just getting started for us at this point. So I love their mentality. I think that this team is just built different at this point, and I'm excited to watch them for the rest of the season.
What's wild is if you would have asked me who I thought the better head coach would have been between Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, I would have said Shane Steichen, and here we are with Jonathan Gannon significantly better in their tenure as head coaches.
I think so too. Hey, they're building it brick by brick. It's nothing flashy.
It's nothing flashy at all. Actually, I can't say that it's significantly better because the Colts did make the playoffs last year with Gardner
No, they
Minshew
didn't.
quarterback. So
No, they did not.
They did not make it, but they were right there. So we'll see. It's not over yet. Cardinals still have to make the playoffs, and then my statement will be correct. But I retract that it's Shane Steichen, or that it's Jonathan Gannon clearly better. But I think at this season, I don't think there's any question. I think it's Shane Steichen. I think it's Jonathan Gannon.
I agree with you. All right, well, that's the Cardinals. Hey, Cardinals fans, I'm backing you. I'm decked out in Cardinals gear right now. I'm riding for the rest of the season. Protect the nest. All right.
White clouds blowing out when we max 4-5, not the size, but it kick up. Highlight of my life, man.